Welcome to Amish Roots. Thank you for joining me. My relationship with my dad was complicated. As a child, I remember him as playful, strict. He would often take the time to stop and play with us on his way out to the barn for evening chores, whether it was kicking a soccer ball or throwing a baseball with us for just a few minutes. I also remember he did not go easy on us. It was probably his quiet way of letting us know that if we wanted to get better, we would have to learn it and earn it. I also recalled that after supper, he liked to lie on the kitchen floor to read the newspaper before chores. And I remember sitting on his back, combing his hair into all sorts of weird and wild hairstyles, with nary a complaint from him, unless I pulled too hard. My dad was a hard worker. Not only did he run a 100-acre farm, but he worked in carpentry. He was often the man to lead barn raisings, and later in life, he had a woodworking shop and made anything from toys to furniture. But when I was growing up, he ran the farm, helped others who needed a hand building and fixing things, and also on occasion did some horseshoeing. He was a very busy man. In the wintertime, he liked nothing better than working in the bush, whether it was making wood for our stoves or in the springtime, cooking maple syrup. Tapping the trees and cooking the syrup was a special time for my dad, even though we may not have enjoyed it quite as much because we had to trundle through the deep snow with buckets to collect the sap. But like everything he did, he took great pride in making sure his syrup was top notch, and he had many repeat customers every year. I might be a bit biased, but I thought he made the best maple syrup. Dad was a great example for us, even if we did not always recognize it at the time. As I said before, he was strict. But looking back, I see he was trying to teach us respect and discipline. You see, my dad lost his mom when he was about 5. He had 4 siblings and he was second youngest. So this was a hard time for him. He never talked about it with us, but other people shared how tough it was for Grandpa with 5 little ones at such a young age. For someone who grew up without a mom, I would say my dad turned out extremely well, and that is in part credit to his oldest sister, who took on the duties of helping her siblings. Until the day she died, my dad had a special relationship with her. One lady who helped out the family after their mom passed away told me how it always broke her heart that the children would run to the cemetery to sit by their mom's grave. You see, the cemetery was on the corner of the farm, so the children would run through the field to sit by her grave. I can't even imagine. After my dad got married, he and mom bought the farm and raised the children there. The farm is still in the family to this very day. Because my dad was handy and usually succeeded in anything he tried, he had the misconception that everyone else could too. This made it difficult for my brothers who worked alongside him and didn't always live up to my dad's expectations. It wasn't that they were talented, they just have different interests and ways of doing things. Dad had a hard time accepting that. He wasn't as hard on us girls, as it was mom's job to teach us. I do remember a couple of times, however, being on the receiving end of his annoyance. One day, there was no one at home to help him, and he wanted to get a field of grain seeded. He was saying that he had to cultivate, harrow, and then seed the field before it was time for chores. So I decided that I would volunteer to harrow, as that seemed like the easiest task. Little did I know that walking behind 2 big workhorses and turning a harrow was no easy job. It was also proving difficult for me to discern where my last row was and where I should start the next one after I made the turn. Dad soon caught on I was struggling and walked over to lecture me that I was working the same soil I had done before. He told me to watch his team of horses on the cultivator while he took over harrowing. And that is how we finished the field. Me watching a team while he alternated running the cultivator and the harrow. I felt like such a failure when all I wanted to do was help. But that was my dad. He was so talented, he sometimes forgot others were not. His older brother told me once, I'm not the farmer your dad is, but I enjoy it anyway. When my dad got sick with cancer, I had the opportunity to spend time with him. It was time where he was unable to do many of the things he would like to do and had to sit for a change instead of being on the go. We enjoyed some nice conversations, and he lamented one day that he was probably too hard on us. But then later added, I was just trying to do the best that I could. Since his passing, I look back and I understand a little better where he was coming from. All the pressure of growing up without a mom, having a dad who was overwhelmed with grief at losing his wife, who may not have had the time to be there for his children. Now, most of my memories of my dad are about his sense of humor. He loved to tease and have fun. I remember that even though we did not have a lot of money, he made time for us to have fun, often joining us for walks or games. I can better understand that being strict was probably what he learned from his dad, who was parenting 5 children by himself. A couple of years ago, I was visiting with one of our neighbors, and we were reminiscing about my dad. And my neighbor commented to me, your dad had such a soft heart. And he did. We had lots of good times with our dad. It wasn't all discipline and criticisms. I wouldn't trade him for anyone because, as he said, he was doing the best that he could as our parent. But believe it or not, as often as I thought he was out of touch, I now find myself reliving his words and lessons and implementing them in my own life. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. You are not and will never be perfect. Just be the best dad you can be. Mach's gut, and see you next time on Amish Roots. Plain talk in a modern world.